everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am the Marketing Nomad and my name is Prit. I hope you guys are doing super awesome. Alrighty, okay, so let me first explain what today's videos are going to be all about, and then I'll tell you how I basically thought to do this video. Okay, so in my previous two videos I talked about how we have to be kind and patient with ourselves, and I realized that not many of us, me included, actually know how to be kind and patient with yourself. And this was definitely a lesson that I had to learn 2 years ago. I will also talk a little bit more about it. And you know, people would say you have to be kind and patient with yourself, and I'm like, yeah, I am kind and patient with myself, but actually I wasn't, and I didn't realize it until much later in my life. So if you're wondering, you know, how am I going to be kind and patient with myself, like what does it mean to be kind and patient with yourself, then today's video is going to be for you. Okay, so story time. So all through the years I was kind of like the class clown. You know, I was always known for my humor. I still am known for my humor. And one of the things that I used to joke a lot about was myself. You know, I would always use self-deprecating humor to make other people laugh. And because all of them used to laugh, I would feel like, okay, that's a funny spot, you know, and I would keep doing more and more of it. And over time, instead of it becoming a joke, what happened was I started talking about myself that way, okay? When I was talking to myself, I started using very wrong language to talk to myself, okay? And whatever was a joke to the public ended up becoming something that I thought was true about myself, and I started looking down on myself because of that. So it wasn't until like 2 years ago, I guess I would say, that I realized that my self-deprecating humor was actually harmful to me and the way I was thinking about myself. So I stopped doing that. And I also realized that being kind and being patient with yourself is actually a very deep and long process. It doesn't just stop when, you know, you say, oh, okay, it's okay, you think that way. No, it's actually a much deeper process than that. And that's exactly what I'm going to be getting into in this video. I think I have a couple of tips for you based on my own experience, and I hope that it will provide a very good starting point for you when it comes to you being kind and patient with yourself. All right, so now let's get into when are the instances that you have to be kind and patient with yourself. And my answer to that is always. You always have to be kind and patient with yourself. Okay, now on any other normal occasion, most likely you are going to be kind and patient with yourself. Okay, and we're going to get into that a little later, but there will be certain instances where you actually will struggle to be kind and patient with yourself. And in this video, I kind of want to delve deep into how to be kind and patient with yourself during those situations. All right, so some of the situations could be when you are trying to work through your past trauma. All right, it can be really hard to be kind and patient with yourself because whatever you have learned from that trauma, or whatever behavioral patterns that you may have changed because of that past trauma or that incident, may affect you even to this day. It may stop you from fully functioning to your potential today, and that is understandable. But when you are facing all of these blocks in your everyday life, it can feel a little frustrating, especially when I had to work through my previous trauma. What I felt was, you know, how could I be so stupid to let that affect me? Or how could I have been so dumb not to recognize this? Or there was another thought process that went in my head that says, you know, how could I even do this to myself? And you know, there were so many negative self-talk that I was doing because I could not accept the fact that whatever past trauma had happened had affected the way I was showing up today. So understanding how you talk to yourself in these situations is actually very, very important. And I think that the first step I took towards being kind and patient with myself was forgiving myself. Okay? Whatever I did at that age, it was the best I knew. Okay? And however frustrated I was about the repercussions of my actions, which were pretty severe, I realized I needed to first forgive whatever it was that I did and whatever harm it brought to my life. Okay? So that was the first way that I was able to be kind and patient with myself. Okay, it's not easy. I understand that it is not easy to go back and think about the person you were back then and forgive yourself for the mistakes or the things that you let happen with or without your knowledge. But it has to be done. That's always the first step to take when it comes to this sort of a journey. Okay, so whatever you feel is stopping you today, think back to the incident that created this perception for you. All right, so go back and forgive yourself. Tell yourself that that was the best you knew what to do at that point of time. Today, you know different. Today you've grown older, you have had a lot of experience, you've had a lot of exposure. There are new things that you recognize about yourself and about everything around you, but that was not how it was back then, right? And whatever decisions or actions you took at that time was to the best of your knowledge at that particular time. But the positive thing is today, with all this experience, exposure, all of those awesome things that you know how to fix it. Okay? So the first tip that I do have for you is to forgive yourself. All right? That's the first step towards being kind and patient with yourself. Without that step, I don't think I could have been kind and patient with myself as I was working through all of those trauma. Now, after I forgave myself, okay, and even though the repercussions were huge for the actions or the, I guess, the side effects of the trauma that I faced, what I started to observe was the way I was talking to myself. So you remember I told you that I had this whole bunch of self-deprecating humor, right? And I felt validated by people because I spoke that way. And the conversations that I was having to the outside world became the conversations I was having with myself as well. And that was not right. It's one thing to have self-deprecating humor, though at this point, I definitely do think that it's a very quick progression from self-deprecating humor to the way you have a conversation with yourself. And that's why I completely stopped with all the self-deprecating humor. But to each his own. If you think you can separate, feel free, but I personally don't think so, and it has not worked for me. So I stopped with the self-deprecating humor and I started watching how I spoke to myself, okay? And if there was something that I did and I would immediately have a jerk reaction and say, how stupid could I be to do this? And I'd be like, no, that's not the way I talk to myself, All I have to do is say, it's okay, it's done, let's see what we can do next. All right, so watching how I spoke to myself was a very, very key step that I took, and I still take even to this day, because there are moments where, I think to myself, oh my God, I'm just being so anxious. Oh my God, how can I be this way? And, it's little things like that. It seems like it's not too harmful, but in the long term, these conversations that you have with yourself weigh a lot, okay? They affect the way you show up to the world. They also affect the way you show up to yourself as well. So after that, I started watching the way I talked to myself. And sometimes, even while I was writing my journal, I would make sure that, whatever thoughts that I was writing down, I made sure that those were positive things that I was saying to myself. I was being kind to myself. And another thing that I did was I started talking to myself as I would to my best friend. I would never allow someone else to talk to my best friend the way I used to talk to myself before. If I heard my best friend saying those things, I would tell her no. You know, you can't talk to yourself like that. Or if I heard someone else talking to my best friend like that, I would definitely step in and say, no, you can't say that. You can't say things like that. So the minute I started considering myself in that position, okay, I started asking myself, well, if someone said this to my best friend, would I handle it? Would I accept it? And if the answer was no, then I would not speak that way to myself. Okay, so sometimes, yes, I do agree. You're not going to understand right off the bat what is harmful to you and what is not harmful to you. So in those situations, it's always good to ask yourself, if someone said these lines to my best friend, would I accept it? If your answer is yes, I would accept it, that's completely fine, then I would say that's the green signal. But at that point, if you realize and you say, hey, no, I actually would not allow anyone to talk to my best friend like that, that's when you have to step in and you have to correct that thought process. I had to actually stop the video because something flew into my eyes. I don't know if it's still watering, but I'm feeling okay right now. My eye just, yeah, something went into my eye and then, yeah, I think it's still watering. All right, anyway, so where was I? I was talking about talking to yourself as you would to your best friend, right? And I think that another thing that I personally did was I started eliminating negative words in my talk. So even if I was speaking to someone else, as much as possible, even to this day, I try not to use negative words. So if I'm in a fight with someone, or if I'm in an argument with someone, I most likely am going to direct the conversation about me. I'm not going to be saying, you were stupid, or you were being arrogant, or you were a jerk. No, I have stopped doing those things. And believe me, guys, I have been extremely hot-tempered and very, very blunt for most of my life. So for me, this was a huge, I guess, change in my personality that I had to recognize and start developing. All right. So in those situations, I always kind of direct it as myself, like, when you behaved that way, I felt this, and even doing that has made me feel like I am acknowledging what I felt, and I am 100% in support of what I feel. All right. And I think when I did this, okay, when I started directing my words about myself instead of someone else, I felt empowered. I definitely did feel very empowered. And not just that, I think that it made me take responsibility for my feelings, my emotions, all right? And it also made me realize that my feelings or my thought process, my emotions are separate from who that person is. All right. So I mean, I definitely would love to talk about this in another video. I mean, definitely let me know. I think the topic of that conversation would be how to express your feelings and your emotions in a healthy way. And that was definitely a process for me. I can't even begin to tell you. Like I said, extremely hot-tempered, extremely blunt, very stubborn while growing up. And a lot of people can vouch for this, guys. A lot of people. And the way that I deal with conflict and arguments is very different in the last 2 years compared to how I dealt with arguments and conflicts before that. Okay, so if you want a video on that, definitely let me know in the comments below. So yes, so I started directing all my thoughts about myself. All my conversations were about how I was feeling, and in a way it validated what I was feeling. I was not snubbing what I was feeling, and I think that a huge part of my growth in terms of being kind and patient with myself was for me to acknowledge that it was okay for me to have feelings. It was okay for me to feel certain things at certain situations. And I think that I was really, really hard on myself for having those reactions and emotions in those particular instances in my life, and even to this day, okay? When I feel something, there's always a thought that goes on in my head. Of course, I'm working on this, but there's a thought that goes on in my head that says, you know, am I right to feel this way? Or, you know, I don't think I should be feeling this way, even though it's completely valid for me to feel this way. And that's when my new thought process comes along and says, no, it's absolutely okay for you to feel this way. It's right for you to feel this way. And I think that's another instance where I'm being kind and I'm being patient with myself. And even when I'm working through my emotions, I am extremely patient with myself. I'm no longer frustrated about why it's taking that long. I'm no longer frustrated about why I'm even having these emotions, because I mean, that's just personal to me, I guess I would say, personal to my journey, that I've always been very critical about me having feelings or me feeling certain emotions. And that is something that is a part of my journey of being kind and patient with myself. For you, it will be something else, or it even could be this. All right. So understanding what I'm feeling was a way for me to be kind and patient with myself, and giving myself the time I needed to process those emotions, to process those situations, also is a way of me being patient with myself. Now, the next thing that I did was I walked away from people who made me feel like I shouldn't be kind or patient with myself. I walked away from people who made me feel that it was wrong for me to be kind and patient with myself. Again, that was a huge process. I've talked about it in the previous two videos where, you know, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of fights. Definitely, it was a process. I'm not gonna lie, it was painful during those times. I was sad quite a bit, and you know, I at one point I even wondered, you know, am I doing the right thing? But looking at the life I have today, it was worth it, okay? The amount of positivity I have in my life and the people surrounding me is incredible. So it took a conscious effort on my end to walk away from people who made me feel different, who made me feel like it was hard to be kind and patient with myself, who were filling my life with so much negativity. All right. And of course, the next step that I did do was surround myself with people who were equally kind and patient with me. Okay? Because I feel that when you surround yourself with people who are kind, people who are patient with you, it definitely is a way for you to show yourself that you are being kind to yourself. It shows that you are putting yourself first, and that's exactly what I did. So being kind and patient with yourself is a process. It is still an ongoing process for me. It's not something where, you know, you wake up one day and then you're done and dusted and then you just walk off. It's not like that. It's a process where you have to be conscious about the way you speak to yourself. And it could be even the smallest things, you know, how you handle frustration. What are the conversations you are having with yourself when you are alone? What are the conversations that you're having with yourself when you're feeling a certain emotion? All of these are important. And when you are kind and when you are patient with yourself, I think that it is easier for you to be positive. And I truly believe so, because when I look back at how I handled my trauma back then to how I'm handling that trauma and how I've, you know, managed to slowly come to a place where I've made peace with it, there's a lot of difference. There is a lot of difference, not just in terms of my experience, exposure, my knowledge, and my emotional strength, intelligence, all of those things. Other than that, when I look at it, I've actually been really, really, really patient and very, very kind with myself in the last 2 years. And that itself has given me so much more strength, because I feel like I've got myself in a corner. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, you know how you say you've got a friend in your corner? I've got myself in my corner, and That is so powerful in itself. When you know that you are your best friend, when you know that you're never going to give up on yourself, when you know that you're going to be kind, you're going to be patient with yourself, I don't know, it just fills you with, I guess I would say, it makes you feel a lot stronger. It makes you feel like you've got this because you have one person backing you up, and that person is pretty damn strong, and that person is you. All right. And if I have to look back, yes, that's exactly what I feel today. I think that when I have been extremely kind and patient with myself, I have felt infinitely stronger. I don't care about the consequences because I know I'm right in what I'm feeling. I know that I've got myself to handle whatever it is. And yeah, that's, I guess, bringing me to the end of this video, because I think that it is important for us to be kind and patient with ourselves, for us to keep watching the conversations we are having with ourselves, because when you are kind and patient with yourself, I think you automatically become kind and patient with the world around you. And when that happens, the world becomes a much, much better place. And the people who don't fit that alignment will just move away. And your life just infinitely becomes that much more positive. And that's a good thing, right? That's an awesome thing, to be honest, to have that much positivity in your life. And it starts from you. It truly, really starts from within you. A lot of people, they keep blaming external circumstances. They say, oh, the external circumstances are bad, so it's natural that I feel this way. But I truly believe that it starts with you. When you change your perspective, when you change the way you talk to yourself, when you are kind, when you are patient, when you are positive, when you know how to talk to yourself, automatically you start aligning with things that match what you believe and what you feel on the inside. And that itself, it's kind of like a ripple effect, It slowly starts, if you being the central part of that ripple, have positivity. Wow, I really like using my hands to talk. So yeah, me using hand gestures again, because I don't know any other way to make a point, guys. Okay, so when you being the middle of that ripple, you yourself are positive, then it kind of ripples, it kind of adds that positive atmosphere to you, and that's what we want, right? So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for listening all the way up until here. I'm not sure how long this video was, but I don't think it was too long. I don't know. But yes, I hope you guys are staying super, super safe, super, super healthy. If you did like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you haven't, hit the notification bell, because that tells you every single time I do upload a video. All right, guys? And other than that, if I have to give you some updates on my end, it's been quite hectic with me in terms of Project Potato. I should be doing a big reveal, I think, second week or third week of April. I'm hoping to actually tell you guys what it's about, because oof, there's just a lot that's been going on, and I really want to share that. Like I said, it's kind of like a lifelong dream of mine to do this, so it's a pretty big deal for me, and I'm so glad that you guys are a part of this journey, and you guys are supporting me so well. So yeah, it's been pretty intense with Project Potato, but that should be over real soon. So yeah, that's about it, guys. I hope you guys are doing awesome. Thank you for listening all the way up until here if you did, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.